Islam family. Peace and love. Ain't done a video in a while. It's been about maybe 6 months. And, I've been in the background doing stuff. I ain't ever stopped moving, pushing. We still getting it in. We still finding remedy. Really might be out here about to set precedent for the entire country out here in Texas this week, but that's a whole nother story. I saw something that bothered me recently, and the thing is, I know a lot of people get their news, Facebook and all of that there. This didn't come through that. This actually came directly. Like, I had a brother that I'm very close with send me the video of the Noble out in, I want to say it's Pennsylvania. Something like that. Older Noble, a couple years ago went viral in the white pickup truck hanging the Moorish flag out of them. Now, that was what, 2-3 years ago. They was acting like that was a victory at the time because he didn't get arrested. They just pretty much let him roll off. And I understand, what people were seeing. It might not, if they didn't really look hard enough, see that their brother still got a ticket that day. They just threw it in the back of the truck. So it wasn't really a victory per se. He still had to deal with that at some point. And the reason I know this is because I just got the story of the brother having a shootout behind the eviction, and they killed that brother, unfortunately. So it happens. But the thing is, I could tell a few years ago when that video came out, that brother didn't really know the law. He was one of the brothers out here, like many of us, that's looking for remedy. And there's nothing wrong with that. They see the movement, things of that sort, but are not involved enough, haven't put in enough study to really make a significant difference in your life. So you got to realize that just because someone learns and has the consciousness now that you are more, and there are certain rights, privileges, and immunities that are granted to us by treaty, and all of these things generally are inalienable rights anyway. But as a more, we learn, that basically, we ain't got to deal with the bullshit no more, and there's nothing wrong with that. Hold on, there's a bus coming by. I didn't even know the buses roll that late around here. That's probably middle school, because high school and elementary are already in. But back to what I was going in on. Basically, we learned about these certain rights, privileges, immunities, things of that sort. We learned about remedy. Everybody want to take off now. And we be like, we ain't playing that shit no more. Thing is, the more we learn about law, especially the brothers, brothers that have been through the system, you realize you acquiesce it to most of the things that happen to us. That's just how it is. So we get into the mindset of, we ain't playing no more, and we just not gonna take the shit. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the thing is, one of the things that I've been saying for years, literally for years, is proper process is the difference between getting private remedy and making the news. So you still got to put in your paperwork. I hear people and see people, posting stuff all the time, talking smack about Moors that are putting in paperwork and doing processes and getting remedy and all of that there. And, they want to make claims like, oh, you ain't got no land, or, you ain't got, such and such assets, this or that. But they don't have that shit either. They talking smack, And the thing is, if you don't go through the proper process, you'll never get land. You'll never get it right. Now that bus going back through. Give it a second. But yeah, it's a proper process. So getting land through, let's say, adverse possession. I did a series on that on Facebook, probably about 8 or 9 posts, where I pretty much gave up the whole game of from adverse possession all the way to a allodial title. Yeah, my bad, y'all. Baby just came out. But yeah, I did a series of posts. I want to say I did a Facebook and Instagram from adverse possession to a allodial title. And it's all about going through it the proper process, doing the right paperwork, because that's the difference. See, I had somebody today ask me about had I ever utilized these certificates for AA 222141 in particular when it comes to income tax, and I told them no, it's not used like that. Yeah, it does mention it, but just like with any other foreign national, it's still a proper process. It's still particular documents that you would give to the IRS and to the employer so that you can have them take off that income tax. And so the IRS knows what's going on. So when it does happen, no one is caught off guard. So, that's what anyone would do. It's not automatic. So if you was Chinese or Russian or Japanese, or I'm just calling out other nationalities, but any foreign national who is subject to a tax treaty, just like the Moors, where you have either something that's specifically in the treaty mentioning that they have tax exemption, or what's called a most favored nations clause also. So you can look into that and see how that applies. You can Google that, Black's Law and things of that sort, should have it. Excuse me. But the basic point is this: it's not automatic. Nothing is. You got to go through a proper process for anything, for any remedy you want to get. Even in correcting your status, there's a proper process when it comes to the private side and to the public side. And if you haven't done certain things on either side, you can't necessarily expect to get the remedy in the same way that somebody who's already set it up and got that foundation. I tell people all the time, when you wake up to this knowledge that you are more and all of that there, you do have some protections immediately, just from the fact that you woke up. But the thing is, because it's not finalized or memorialized on paper, there's no record of it necessarily. If you don't correct the records that are already out there, if something does happen, you start looking for remedy after that, then it almost looks like you're looking to gain a privilege by saying you are more, now at this point, because you got jammed up for something. And it's a brother that from what I saw online, I'm not sure if this is still currently true, but someone in my city locked up that doesn't particularly like me. He rose with a group of Moors that. But when I saw he was locked up, there was only one like on the post. When I clicked on it, it was like a GoFundMe, and maybe 4 or 5 people had donated. And I wasn't looking at it in a sense where I was gonna donate. I tried to look the brother up in the county. I go out to help him, but at the same time, I don't know his straw man, and he doesn't pull up under his national name. So, like, what am I to do? Reach out to his family. I don't know how. Like, can't get in touch with somebody that don't even like me. And even if I was to be able to get in touch with him, I'm not even sure that brother would want to accept my help, just to be totally honest. But at the same time, I look out for Texas. Anybody out here in our jurisdiction, hey, look, we in this shit together. And really anybody all around the world that's part of the movement, I rock with y'all, because the thing is, if we're claiming the same nationality, regardless if we don't necessarily get along when it comes down to it, that's just like what these crackers doing. Like, they will not get along but come together to pass laws to fuck over us, just to be totally honest. So I see that a lot out here. Like in Texas, Tejas, the attorney general, or what is it, the assistant to the governor, or one of them, is like getting indicted right now because he ain't playing ball with all the other crackers. Like they don't play no games even with their own people. Like, they will oust their own people. So the thing is, if we not having a togetherness, it's definitely gonna be harder for us, because as long as they stand together, along amongst themselves, they're working stuff out for their own benefit, for their own remedy. And some of the stuff actually do help us. Like I don't agree with the so-called governor out here, the cripple Abbott or whatever. I hate his ass, but at the same time, I rock with him on certain policies. He's majorly for the Second Amendment. Passed the constitutional carry a couple years ago, and some other things along that line where you standing up for actual rights that matter and should matter to us in our communities. I'm a little surprised that more of us are not paying attention to the Second Amendment fight itself just in general, since the shit happened with the rise of the Moors. Like, that was some improper process, relying on some laws that didn't necessarily apply in the way they thought they did. And, that's generally what happened, And, there's other stories of other stuff out there too, that claims that people made. I can't necessarily attest to none of that because I don't know these people personally. But, it's out there. If you looking for it, you can find, certain stories that people have told on that night and that incident, what they say occurred, how they felt about it. But in general law, that shouldn't have happened, and it's ways of fighting that. There's President and Supreme Court cases right now. They are getting everything overturned. The fight between Republicans and Democrats, like their biggest, highest level of a fight that they fighting over right now is the Second Amendment. I don't know if y'all know anything about that. Excuse me. Gotta have my morning tea. But the level of incompetency that's out there is starting to get to be unexcusable, because there are people out here teaching on a high level, there are people teaching on low level, and then there's a lot of in between. But it's getting to the point where it's no excuse. It's too many people been teaching too high level information for too long for people to be stagnant in the way that they are, and to not have enough people, at least one or two in every territory, that's competent enough to be able to handle certain issues. So, like our brother with the white truck, I don't know the brother's national name. They put a straw man in the report, and I ain't even gonna put that out there. But he was dealing with eviction cases, what they said. And the property was his family's, like his brother or somebody had passed it on to him. So that sounds like, I'm gonna just say it sounds like, probate issues, some stuff happened along them lines, and they no longer own the property. But he had been staying there, occupying the property. They said even, he had got some of them guns from his brother. Nothing wrong with that. The thing is, that's not really that hard of an issue to fight. Eviction court is like the lowest level, what they call out here JP court. Like that's like traffic ticket court. And it's not hard to take that on. But the thing is, when dealing with real estate, there are some things that need to go on, and it was neglected with that property, which is the only reason that brother couldn't have had the full ownership that he needed. Excuse me. Yeah. So with property, especially with it being in his family line, it shouldn't have been a question of ownership where it got to the point where someone was able to evict him out of there if we had any other competent Moors in that area to help him out. Like, that's really sad to see, because like I say, it's not really a big deal, but the thing is, if you don't handle it, it will be. So, without doing that proper process, they were able to, on paperwork, basically strip that brother the property. They came to evict him, and he wasn't having it, and he died on that hill. That's respectable to some extent, but the thing is, that ain't the way to go about it. We need our people. It's too many of us to be losing people, needlessly like that. we lost a brother out here in our Houston territory, near the Houston territory, just like last week. You know, natural causes type of thing. You know, so for our brothers be out here getting killed for nothing. Minor stuff, some equivalent to traffic ticket level type of situation where he just really didn't want to leave. That was senseless, and I don't stand for that kind of stuff. Other people might be out here, idly, just letting that shit go by, letting it fly. That weighed real heavy on me. Like I say, I didn't find out about it through, a Facebook post or something like that. One of my brothers saw the news story that's not on Facebook. He just saw the news and sent me the story and was like, look, I think that's the brother from the white truck from, a couple years ago, that other video. And yeah, it turned out to be him. So the last couple of days since then, seemed like everybody else got a hold to the story. It came out Facebook. I had somebody that I spoke with yesterday ask me, did I know about somebody that they thought was the brother's daughter in certain Facebook groups, speaking out, asking for help, and saying the father got killed or something along them lines. And I didn't know nothing about that. I don't know what's going on with that. And if the family wants to reach out to me, that's fine. I definitely help. Things do slightly differ, from state to state as far as laws, but in general, it's all the same. I know where to look, where to point anyone for any type of case. Law library is the same, no matter where you go. The sections are the same. You're looking for the same things, maybe under different names. It's always different codes, statutes, all of that bull. But hey, we got to do what we got to do to get remedy, because we're not in the position, that people want to say that we're in, where we could just drop off the map, or we have enough diplomatic power where, we can reach out to anyone for help. No, we got to do this on our own. And, there's several different things that, claims that could be made possibly to help this brother. But, I don't know that his status was necessarily corrected properly on the record. And, people complain and say, you ain't got to do paperwork and all of that, blah, blah, blah. Well, I can give a personal testimony from maybe about 4 years ago, and this is a technology that's not really even all around the country yet, but they had it out here 4 years ago, where I was pulled over, and on the scene, they did something that was new to me. They whipped out a device, the portable box device, and fingerprinted me on the spot. And at that time, what pulled up was my straw man, not my national name, because I hadn't done a public side correction. So, I understood at that point, these here, your fingerprints, they'll give you away. If you ain't done nothing in the public, that is significant as far as status correction. And, I'll be specific enough, so people understand what I'm saying. If you haven't not only filed a nationality affidavit, but got an exemplified copy, where you have a judge and a clerk sign off on it, and that can be used to correct other public documents, or gone through the public process of doing the court order name change, which, that those are the private versus the public ways of going about it that actually can be significant and make a difference. If you haven't done those, that's what's going to happen if it ever does come down to that. So, with me personally, I saw it as, okay, I got to get my public stuff correct. So what I did was, at that time, I had already turned in, or surrendered is the proper term, because that's what the form says. I had surrendered my driver's license a few years back. At that point, it's been like 7 years now. But I went and got my state ID. But using my nationality affidavit with the exemplification certificate, where the judge and the clerk signed off basically that everything that was on my affidavit was a correct copy of what's on their record. But not only that, but it's also in due form of law. So When I went to DMV, say, look, man, give me the state ID, and you got to correct all this stuff, they had to do it. They had to upload my nationality affidavit and the certificate into their system and amend the contract. So this is not just, any old Johnny Q straw man, putting in for a ID. And yeah, people not going to agree with this. Whatever. I know we get remedied. Thing is, I don't walk around with my state ID generally. If I get stopped, I'm not giving them my state ID. I'm giving them my nationality card. But if they look up my free national appellation in the system, if they fingerprint me, it's all coming up the same. Because I've corrected it in their system, in the public. So let's say I need remedy at some point. Well, I have on file certain things that the head elected judge and clerk have both said are in due form of law. So on my nationality affidavit, where it brings up the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, stating that I'm a party to that, dealing with all my rights, privileges, and immunities, this specific copy, when you get the exemplified copy of your affidavit, the purpose of that is for evidence. Like, that's what those certificates that they give out for when they're doing this process, that's what it's for. It's to be used or to make it good evidence, admissible evidence is the proper term. But so at that point, your nationality, anything you claiming on there, even statements of expatriation saying you're not a citizen, all the significant stuff that we put in our affidavit, that's now evidence in a court of law. So if someone does violate any of my rights, I have that as proof. And I've used that to help other people to dismiss cases as well. I haven't had to do it for myself because they don't generally mess with me as much. I'm not gonna lie. But I feel like they be messing with family members, people around me, since they know who this brother Walter Bay is. Leave him alone, but look, go mess with this one or that one around them. And, I'm making them back off my family members and, other people out here in Texas, to the point where, I have some family members that are really not into the information really hard, but they needed identification. Got them a nationality card, and, they get pulled over, don't know nothing or nothing, but when they ask them, for your ID and blah, 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 they hand them a nationality card. One of them told me, dude gave it right back, was like, look, man, I don't even want to deal with it, and let them go. And I was surprised, because even when I get stopped, generally it ain't that quick. But hey, it can happen. Gotta get my tea in. But I had to get this information out here, because it's really sad, what our people going through, what happened with their brother in particular. Because there's too many sharp brothers out here, too many sharp sisters out here that come to me all the time. And, I could have easily helped that brother or someone in his family, somebody that he was working with, just to feed them the information of what he needed to do. Because that's what happens a lot of times when people come to me for a consultation. A lot of Moors are into doing their own paperwork and things of that sort, but they still need a little guidance. And, I come in, to help in a lot of those situations. If you want to get the service of having me doing some work for you, it's really going to cost you a little more, if I'll even do it, just to be honest. Because if you're not able to stand up and hold your square on the information, it's no reason to doing it. I tell people to go back to the drawing board unless, it's something that's so crucial where it could be potentially life-threatening or something like that, or, take massive amounts of time away from you and your family. I help you. But, only on the contingencies that you're going to, do right from now on. You're going to continue on your studies to make sure that if this does happen next time, you don't have to call me, because I can't personally rescue everybody, even though I do get the calls in the middle of the night when stuff happens. I Had calls 3, 4 in the morning several times. You know, I get calls from the county and I get calls from people, family, like, hey, such and such, or, you know, this group just got locked up. And hell, to be honest, I really don't answer middle of the night calls. I be wondering what the hell is going on. Like, it gotta be family, you know, or, you know, somebody that's one of my clients, you know, in particular, because I do so much, I have so much going on, I don't answer no random calls. Just to be honest, if you call my phone from a random number because somebody gave you my number, you're not getting through. I've had people that had consultations find another phone, call, and then try and get, you know, some free questions in or something like that there. Like, this was years ago. You know, people try and take advantage sometimes. You know, it's not something all the time, but I don't answer random calls. You know, people give my number out, or bill collectors, anything along them lines. I have too much going on. My schedule is too packed to be able to do something like that. I always got orders going out, always have consultations, people that have long-term mentorships with me where, you know, I'm constantly, you know, having to help people out with certain situations that are going on. So it's no way in the world, excuse me, that I can dedicate a lot of time, or really any time, to random stuff a lot of times. Like, that's a different level that a lot of people, if you've never been a business owner or entrepreneur, you may not understand. You know, not having the time. You know, I don't sit up and get to watch TV and do things like that. You know, I be out of the mix a lot of times, not knowing what's going on. So if I don't get the random call in the middle of the night and this and this and that, I might miss it. You know, it was, you know, another more prominent brother in the movement that got locked up recently. I ain't gonna put his name out there, but if people know, they know. But I was surprised. I was like, man, such and such. But hey, it happens. And it made sense because a lot of his people started reaching out to me after that happened. And I was wondering why. You know, they were looking for, you know, answers and this and that, feeling like, you know, maybe since he didn't have his stuff together, or he didn't have his stuff together, that, you know, they needed some outside help outside of the group and organization, or, you know, that they rock with. So, you know, I don't mind helping people, you know, from any walks of this movement, you know, but when I see a massive amount of people that generally, how do I want to put it? They go by a specific school of thought in this movement and don't too much deviate from it. When I see those type of people coming my way on a mass scale, you know, I usually know something's happened. You know, I wonder what it is, but I don't go searching. But, you know, somebody eventually tell me, and that's what happened. You know, so I hear a little bit of it all. I get people hit me, you know, about a little everything. I have people that be in, you know, all kind of Moorish groups and tell me that people talking about me. They have meetings about me and some of the things that I speak on, some of the remedy I've talked about, or, you know, certain things that to them is controversial. But, you know, somebody got to speak on it. And I'm not ever one to be trying to expose a person, you know, for any particular thing. It's not like that. But when I see the way I describe it as a crack in the foundation in our movement, well, a crack in the foundation make the whole house fall, you know, at some point. You know, you can't let that continue to linger. And, you know, that's what's been going on for the longest. So, you know, if you see me pointing out a crack in the foundation, it's so we can fix it, you know, as a community, you know, so we can gain a better understanding and make it to the next level and not get stuck in a particular mindset, because the thing is, it's so much going on and the information does change. You know, they pass new laws, statutes, this and this and that. Not to say that any of those are necessarily relevant to us, but the thing is, when they try and put it onto us, and when people haven't corrected their statuses properly, these type of claims can get put on our people. So we need to have certain people that are at the forefront and studying and watching these type of things going on, like how I watch the stuff going on with the Second Amendment. You know, that's a huge fight. And things are starting to look on the up and up. You know, but at the same time, the governor out of California has basically proposed what they call the 28th Amendment that's supposed to alleviate the Second Amendment. It's probably not going to pass, like a 99% chance it's not going to pass. But, you know, it's people out here doing it that like want to really ban all guns. And I'm a Texan. That's all I'm going to say about that. Like, I grew up as a Texan. You know, so in my territory, Tejas, you know, in the organic indigenous, you know, we are about our rights. So I understand, you know, the situation with that brother, and he wanted to have, you know, his standoff because he felt that was the only way to protect his property. I really, really get that. Like, that makes perfect sense to me. But going about it in that manner, the way he implemented it, you know, going against public policy officers, it's not going to turn out well. You know, and it's not enough people, it's not enough sharp Moors all concentrated in one spot, especially in that particular territory where, honestly, I could see, you know, them getting the proper justice for that brother. You know, his family might get a little something. They might get, you know, Benjamin Crump or, you know, somebody out there to, you know, get them to sign something and have the city pay or whatever, you know, even though the brother, you know, you could say it's shaky or not whether he was in the right or in the wrong, just to be honest, because without having your status intact, without being in your proper status, you're not fully protected to be able to operate like this. You're still in the status of a minor. So when we talk about status correction, the status that you're rendered to is the status of a minor, and they call a minor different things in law, and, you know, depending on what genre of law you're dealing with, you know, whether it's commerce or something like that, they might call you the debtor instead of a minor, but it's the same thing, you know, and it's different areas. So most people that are listening to this know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't have to go too in depth with that, but, you know, this brother was an elder to me, you know, in the sense of being, you know, elder to my age. You know, I don't necessarily know the brother. I definitely hadn't studied under him. He probably, you know, watched me because I've probably been in the movement longer than him, you know, understanding more. But, you know, still an elder indeed, you know. So it's rough, you know. If this, you know, happened to somebody popular in the movement that is an elder, you know, I don't want to put no names out there to put no bad karma on anyone. You know, it would be more of an upfight and, you know, more people actually getting involved with it. But at this point, it's not. And, you know, it takes resources to be able to fight this kind of stuff when it does happen, those kind of violations. Excuse me. So, you know, I'd be willing to help the family all the way. But at the same time, they'd have to be able to compensate me to get me out there, you know, where, you know, I have enough comfort level to be able to leave my family to go help out somebody else's family thousands of miles away. And in this movement, you know, it's also a lot of people that they bump into certain information, and even though they don't understand how to apply it, they think it should just 1,000% apply automatically anytime, like when it comes to discharge. So you understand or get the understanding of House Joint Resolution 192, 1933, where they took away the gold. They said they had to discharge dollar for dollar. They never told you how to do it. We found it. You know, I spoke on it on my channel several times. I have several videos on, you know, what authentication of full faith and credit is. Y'all can go back and watch that and get that understanding. But, you know, I also have another one called Discharging Debt versus Paying Bills, where it breaks down the 3 different statuses that are required to even be able to discharge a debt. So people think, it's not a process, and it's just supposed to happen, and people supposed to work for free. That everything in this world is supposed to be free because there is no money. But just because there is no money doesn't mean there's no such thing as exchange, barter, regardless. And you could say money is fraud, fake, or whatever, but these same people use it every day. There's no prominent system right now that's replacing it. So essentially what we have is substanceless money. There's no gold backing the money, but that doesn't mean that there is no money. People use this money every day, and just because I have this understanding of discharge and how to clear certain debts, that can't be applied to everything. That it says public debts, in particular. Go back and look. So private debts between people, that's still the reason they have tort claims or lawsuits for money. I still gonna go over some people's head. Hopefully not most of the people watching, because most of the people that watch me are a little more intuitive and know that even though I might be speaking on something that is a little bit less popular of a topic, when I'm speaking on it, it's something that's been well researched. So I'm not gonna put out some bullshit information. And people challenge me all the time on certain information, and a lot of them will do it publicly and then reach out privately for a further explanation. Get it, but then not go back publicly on the post or wherever it is they, question and ridicule me and say, oh, you was right about that, brother. And you know what? I don't even mind, because I'm so used to it. It's been happening to me for years. This is plight of a Pisces. Go back, y'all look into the allegory of the zodiac. I understand my role in the position that the Most High has given to me as a Pisces, and it ain't the easiest one, which is why some people that don't necessarily overstand their role as a Pisces in particular have really, really bad attitudes, like publicly, like going off on people and real hostile, aggressive like behavior. And I'm talking about Moors. People, known Moors. There's a few of them that are like that. And, I can see why. We have the blessing and the curse to not only hear the truth of the Most High, but to see people bump their head over and over because they're not getting the same message that we are. And it's certain things that are just for us that if we put out there, a lot of people generally won't get, or at least not immediately. It takes time, which is why we'll see them bumping their heads over and over, and while we giving advice. And if you're not humble enough and understand the position as a Pisces, given that's gonna happen, you'll be like, man, fuck that old dumbass nigga, blah blah blah. He ain't listening. I've seen it. They might not do it that much in public like that, but it happens. They'll ridicule people or not have the best attitude towards somebody looking to them for information if they're fresh to information. It generally happens. So, it's not a lot, until, someone gets that certain understanding. But myself in particular, since I understand my role and my assignment, I know how to play and handle certain situations, but I know also that I'm going to be highly misunderstood sometimes. And, it sometimes takes people years of following me on and off to get a certain concept, because it takes a certain level of research that you got to do to get to certain conclusions. I've studied some subjects 4 and 5 times, coming back and forth before I truly got them. You know, and it happens in the movement, and I can see it when people reject certain knowledge, when they reject certain things in law. Like the first one for me was authentication. Uh, when you look into the definition of authentication versus the process of what happens when you authenticate a document, not just a birth certificate, any document that is notarized can be authenticated, or any certificate issued by a state can be authenticated. So looking into that process, I changed my opinion and realized I had said some things publicly that I had to now come back and retract. So it humbled me to a point where I don't even speak on certain things, at first. I might wait a year or two before I even put certain things out there. And, I learned that, like, in discharge too, when it comes to that particular topic. Like, I wouldn't speak on a public discharge if it ain't been 2 years, because things get reversed. Things can happen. And discharging debt is a long-term game anyway. If you ain't talking about a 90-day plus debt, how did you discharge it? It ain't a discharge. Now, it might have been an offset. It's possible to do certain things, but everything has to be set up in place, proper process and procedure. Anything else, might get you jammed up, to be honest. And I hate to see how people in these type of situations, but personally right now, like I say, it's hitting heavy on me about our people being in this lower level position and not studying higher and getting to these higher levels to really understand law, because it's getting our people hurt, and I don't want to see that. I don't know how to put it any better, but we got to do better, fam. We got to really study, research, and get into this law.